This is an issue about which you care deeply. How did you get involved in it?
Well, Howard, I remember when I first heard about it, it just seemed too impossible to be true. So I had to do some study and some research myself. And I read about it, and the more I read, the more concerned and the more grieved I became for what's happening to our country. You know, we grew up as a country where we said the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag every morning. In my school in Virginia, we said the Lord's Prayer every morning. Things have changed so much.
We did that in Boston, too, believe it or not.
Is that right?
Yes, at the Winship School and Boston Latin School.
Well, you know, kids don't do that anymore. In fact, the American flag is not even displayed in most classrooms nowadays, which really, that grieves me as well.
When I went to OEO, when I was director of OEO under Nixon, they had pictures of Ho Chi Minh. They had the Cuban flag. They had the communist Vietnam flag, the Viet Cong flag, but they did not have a single American flag, no picture of our president. So the day I became director, I tore all of those down and put up the American flag and
good for
pictures
you.
of our people.
Well, in my classroom when I was growing up, we had pictures of George Washington. We had pictures of Thomas Jefferson, because they're famous Virginians as well as our presidents. But you know, I grew up loving Virginia history and American history, and loving our country and loving our nation, and it just grieves me that what we see today is a turning away from American history and the nationalism of America. And what the leaders, our current leaders, want is a North American Union. They really do not want a sovereign nation for the United States of America any longer. They want us to merge with Canada and Mexico and form a North American Union. Now, the interesting thing is they will deny this to the very end. They will not one of them will ever admit it.
Just as they did in Europe when
Exactly.
they were creating the European Union.
Exactly. And there are so many parallels.
By the way, I read about this as it was being built when I was in high school. When I was 11 years old, I read about Jean Monnet and Paul-Henri Spaak and all of the one-worlders who had designs for this European Union, just as George Orwell, or his real name was Eric Blair, predicted in 1984.
Well, Jean Monnet, as you know, did this in Europe, and it started more than 50 years ago. They started with all these treaties, right? Actually, in 1943, I believe, was the first one, the Iron and Coal. And it started there, and every time you turn around, they had another treaty. And look what they have today. I just came from London. And you know, you go down the streets of London and you see the blue flag of the European Union, and you know, you buy and sell things with the euro, and that is exactly what they are trying to do here in the United States
with the Amero,
with the Amero, and the logo of the North American Union is a blue background with an outline of North America on it, without any lines showing the borders with Canada and Mexico, because in their world there will be no lines, there will be no borders. People will be free to come and go as they please, and they will deny this, Howard, to the very end. But everything they are doing parallels what happened in Europe 50 years ago. Everything.
Well, Robert Pastor, the architect of this scheme, who's vice president of American University, has run assemblies orienting college students to this concept, and he wrote for the Council on Foreign Relations a paper called Building the North American Community.
I have a copy of it on my desk. I keep it there. It's 58 pages long, and I've read every word of it. They call for the integration of transportation, economics, health care. They have 20 different working groups. You know, when President Bush became president in 2001, the first trip that he made, his first state visit, was to go to Mexico and visit President Vicente Fox. And Fox tried to get Bush at that time to grant amnesty to all illegal aliens in the United States. Fortunately, that didn't happen. But Fox really pressed Bush and impressed upon him the need to integrate North America, Canada, the United States, and Mexico. And
he used U.S. tax dollars to lift up the people of Mexico.
$20 billion a year is what they want. They want to form a fund, and actually Republican Senator John Cornyn from Texas originally introduced this. He is not in the recent session of Congress,
Well, he was barraged.
Yes, that's
with
right.
opposition, so he retreated.
But he did twice. Twice he introduced legislation for a North American Development Fund, which would have taken $20 billion from United States taxpayers and sent it to Mexico every year to try to lift people out of poverty. The trouble with that is, as we know, there's tremendous corruption in Mexico, and this would have never helped the people it was intended for.
You don't promote wealth by robbing Peter to pay Paul.
That's right.
You get Paul to become productive, and that's how wealth is created.
You know, I just, when I was in London recently, I was teaching at Wellington College for a school, an international school of fundraising. And there were some young folks there from Mexico. And I love the Mexican people. Someone, a fellow conservative, recently accused me of being a racist. I had to laugh in his face. I said, I'm the least racist person you know. But these young men were there from Mexico, and I spent most of my free time hanging out with these fellows because I was just intrigued to hear about from them what's going on in Mexico. And these guys are free market people who are there with the Leadership Institute, and they are trying to teach their fellow college and university students how to start entrepreneurial businesses in Mexico. Now, and I told them, I said, I can help you with that. That's the kind of thing that I can get into. And I volunteered to come to Mexico to help them, to teach them how to set up a business and how to run a business. That's how we can help people, not by sending them $20 billion a year that's going to end up with drug lords, but by teaching them how to build a business.
And not by stealing the Social Security dollars of the American people and paying those Social Security dollars to illegal aliens who've returned to Mexico.
That's right.
Which is one thing that Bush has proposed.
You were talking about Monet earlier. There are so many parallels between what happened in the European Union and what is happening right now with the NAU. And I encourage people who are interested in this issue, and everybody should be, to read a book by Jerome Corsi, The Late Great USA. It lays out the entire case, and Dr. Corsi is a tremendous intellect, and he wrote this book and just explains how we got to this point that our leaders are currently trying to do this. One thing that I want people to know about, and one thing that really drives me, is that all of this stuff is happening in a stealth manner. It's very secretive. You never hear anything about it. And that's why, you know, the people who don't believe this make fun of us. They think we're black helicopter, you know, all this kind of thing. They don't believe that this is really happening. Well, it is happening.
That's because the people who control the media are one-worlders who want it to happen.
There are precious few people out there who are telling the truth on this issue. But when you have a group of some of our nation's top leaders of industry and government and cabinet-level officials meeting in secret in Banff, Canada, as they did last year, and don't release anything about it to the news media, the only way they found out anything about government officials who were there is through Freedom of Information Act filings.
And also through the mailings you've helped the Conservative Caucus send out to hundreds of thousands of Americans.
We have put a lot of mail into the mailboxes of the American people trying to spread this story because it is the truth. Interesting thing happened. There's a group that called NASCO. NASCO is a group that is talking about building of the NAFTA superhighway, something that they deny exists, but it's there and it's being built. And
they'll take 584,000 acres of private land by eminent domain to
in
advance
Texas alone.
In Texas, and this highway would be owned by a Spanish company,
Centra,
and managed by the Mexican government.
And they deny everything about this highway. It does not exist. They'll tell you to your face it does not exist. But in Kansas City, they've created the Port of Kansas City for the purpose of distributing all the goods that come in. And this group, NASCO, that put together this website and this whole public relations campaign, they had on their website, the front page was a map of North America with all the railroads and all the things. That's what we put on the front of many of your packages that we've mailed.
Thank God for direct mail, which lets us get the truth out.
And do you know what they did? When they saw our mailings, they took down their website. Now, you can go back and see old versions of their website with it on there, but the new website took it down because they didn't want anybody to know.